how adopting a British accent kind of helped me speaking better English. Obviously, I now talked in kind of an American accent, and I realized that I switch in between those all the time, and I just it depends on the content of what I'm speaking. So usually when I do like abstract things, I just use the British accent, and whenever I try to be like the dude from next door, I pretty much use the American accent, which is kind of, well, I'm just realizing it right now. But back to the title of the video, back to how adopting a British accent actually helped me speak better English. This is something I realized. So actually I got a phone call today because I signed up for something. I wanted to change something for my financials, and actually I got a call back. Kind of a nasty thing, but I got a call back and I just spoke with a pretty heavy British accent, and this is something I just realized after the fact that I just use the British accent, and I also have for a lot of these videos, even though I usually, in the past at least, have tried to stick with an American accent, and now I'm using a British accent again. Obviously this is not like British American because I'm not a native speaker, therefore I'm also kind of allowed to switch between all those because I don't have like a native British or American accent, therefore I don't care that much. I mean whatever. So the thing is, if you think of the stereotypical British character who also just might have a very high tone of voice, and you also, in contrast, you think of this American character that speaks with the trailer guy voice, then these are obviously two different characters. And what I tried in the beginning, when I started to learn English, like in 3rd grade I started to learn English, I obviously knew like hello before, but apart from this, this is pretty much when my English learning started, so at age 8 or 9, I guess. So in terms of, I didn't grow up bilingual, if any of you wonder, and also this is probably the reason my English isn't that good, but well, let's try to stick to the concept of this video and to the title, or to the topic of this video. And I actually realized that whenever I do impersonations or accents, I mean, I'm not the master impersonator on the internet, that's kind of obvious. I mean, it's just something I don't even think I'm quite good at it, but compared to people who are not good at it, I'm a little bit better than them, I guess. So here is how the British accent kind of made it easier for me. There is this idea I have, I don't know if this has any scientific evidence, but obviously, I mean, it's not that it's obvious, but if there is no scientific data to back it up, it's not that obvious. So if people speak other languages, they use the building blocks their own native language is made out of, because these are the building blocks people already have. So if now an Italian guy tries to speak English, then he just might sound like an Italian guy. And why is this the case? Because they just use the building blocks which sound similar to the building blocks in English, and therefore it still sounds like an Italian speaking English because they just use the Italian building blocks. Now, the thing is, in your mind you kind of have to separate all these different languages, and obviously when you are very fluent at these different languages, it becomes very easy. For example, switching just to these different languages and also using the same tone of voice, because the actual differentiation you need when kind of coming up with speaking these different languages is less needed, because you are just better at speaking them. Therefore, the more you speak them, the more fluent you get in these, and also the more you can vary the tone and also your voice when speaking them. But if you're not that fluent, then obviously you kind of need triggers to get into this other language. And one of these triggers is just thinking of these different languages as different characters, or you are kind of a different character if you speak the language. For example, I have a friend who also can speak Portuguese, and whenever he speaks Portuguese, he just said that Portuguese is much more friendly and more social. And when it comes to German, obviously there's the stereotype that Germans just say words like Krankenwagen all the time, and therefore And also, obviously, German sounds really hard, and also there's this German history we cannot get rid of. But now, when trying to think of English, for example, then the American accent is kind of closer to, I would say, not necessarily the German language, but also to a dialect I use when I speak German. So this is kind of, I also think of these as not like the same language, but just as different languages, because then it makes it easier and I don't mix them up. I just say I speak this dialect, or I speak German, so normal proper German, or I speak British English, or I speak American English. And this kind of makes it very easy. And I just switch to American English again, and you just realize, and now I switched it up. I just spoke with the British accent, but with the American voice. And this is something you only can do, and I also did not do it intentionally now, if you are very fluent at these different languages. But now, just doing the British accent for quite some time, and also using it now again, it just makes it easier, because I can do a certain type of voice, and then I actually can realize, I can recognize what this language is made out of. Because I can't just, it's like if you, for example, try to speak all languages at once, with like all different tones and also maybe singing, then it becomes just very confusing for the brain, because the brain doesn't really know what it should do. Think of it like a circle. All the languages you know are like a circle, and the more specific you kind of go into one corner of the circle from the center, the easier it is. But if you try to do like English and then with an Italian accent, but also trying to use German words, then it just becomes very confusing, because these are different areas of the circle. And now, the smaller the niche is, the easier it is to get into, because you can just kind of condition yourself to also listening to your own voice and then realizing, oh yeah, I'm speaking this thing. And I'm also, if I do the British accent, then the things I tell the audience are maybe a little bit higher in abstractiveness. And this kind of helps making speaking different languages easier, at least for me. And this is how the British accent kind of helped me getting better at English.